then let us have competition. Let them fight. Talking about Microsoft and their Activision Blizzard acquisition. And PlayStation, of course, they're always talking blah, blah, blah. Now, we're not going to talk about how PlayStation's whining and bitching and moaning about them owning Activision, or how Xbox is talking shit about them or nothing, all that. No, we're going to talk about how a change in this situation, and what I want to get your thoughts, Nick, on what you think this means for not just this acquisition, but Microsoft or Xbox moving forward. Real quick, before I get into what's been said and what happened, Xbox is owned by Microsoft. They are Microsoft. It is the Microsoft Xbox, but Xbox is its own division. They are a part of Microsoft. Microsoft, like many of these large companies, is a lot like a bunch of small companies or smaller companies within a larger umbrella. Microsoft itself, the one that does Windows and all the other stuff, they, of course, have hands in Xbox, and they worry about Xbox, but they more or less have people that run Xbox, the day-to-day and things like that. They don't, Satya Nadella, who is the CEO, took over for Bill Gates, or Steve Ballmer, as the, of Xbox. He is the big, not Xbox, he's the big Microsoft guy. He is the guy. He's the new Bill Gates. Not new anymore, but he is that guy. He doesn't really get involved with Xbox that much. Every now and then, of course, Phil Spencer and his like have to go to him and say, hey, we need to make a big move. Can we do this? You're the big dick, so give us the go-ahead or not. We've heard those stories here or there, but for the most part, you don't hear Satya Nadella. I always want to call him Nutella, but you don't really hear Satya Nutella talking about Xbox specifically very often, unless they have some special show and he comes in and he's like, we love Xbox. Xbox so great for Microsoft. And that's how it should be. That's how these companies are run, and that's fine. Well, apparently all this bitching and moaning and blah, 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 and them holding up this $70 billion thing, which $70 billion is a lot of fucking money. Satya said, all right, move aside, children. Let me come in this motherfucker, and as you said earlier, throw it on the table. Because that's exactly what he did, and I just kind of like what he had to say. Because this is a guy who is not in the video game world. He doesn't give a shit about all this, my box is better than yours, and oh, and all the whining and bitching and moaning, the fanboys and girls and people and all this shit. He don't give a fuck about that. Satya Nadella runs Microsoft, which is much more than Xbox. Well, he came in and he was doing an interview with Forbes about something else, and this whole thing came up because it's a big, huge deal. And it also came up about mainly not so much the fanboys, but how here recently Sony has been just, I like Sony, but they've been whining like a little bitch a lot. And they've been making a lot of contradictory statements about how they shouldn't be able to do this. Pretty much only we should be able to do this kind of thing with exclusivity and things like that. I'm going to read this paragraph here and then we'll discuss. And it's mainly the last sentence that he says that I'm like, ooh, shots fired. He is confident that the company's proposed $68.7 billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard will be approved by regulators. He's speaking to Bloomberg. I'm sorry, I stated the wrong one. Nadella said it's understandable that an acquisition of this size, the biggest ever for Microsoft and one of the largest in history across the technology space, would go through scrutiny. That being said, and this is the part where Satya came in and said, all right, motherfuckers. Because real quick before I say this, Sony has been going left and right talking about how it is unfair that Microsoft could own Activision Blizzard and also Call of Duty. That's the big one. And they could make it exclusive so you could only get it on. That would damage their brand and it could damage gamers. We're here to protect gamers. And in the same breath, they're like, here's this year's Call of Duty stuff that is exclusive only to PlayStation. Final Fantasy VII Remake, only on PlayStation. Spider-Man, only on PlayStation. They shouldn't buy things. We just bought Blizzard, or not Blizzard, Bungie. Hey, we bought Insomniac. We bought this, we bought that. Did you know, because people like to talk shit about Microsoft buying things, that out of all of Sony's internal studios that they own, something like 2/3 of those studios they bought, they acquired. They did not build them. People are like, they should build them from the ground up like Sony does. Sony didn't do that. They built them. I mean, they bought them. They did build some, but Microsoft has too. now their studios have been more successful in the last generation, but they did the same fucking thing that Microsoft's doing, but they're bitching and moaning about it.
Xbox is not going to not let you play Call of Duty on PlayStation. They've given up too much fucking money. Anyways, I'm sorry. Continue.
I do think that before I get into this last comment here, I do think that eventually they will. I think eventually it will become exclusive because they want to push people in that direction, or because Microsoft wants Game Pass on everything, including PlayStation. They've already offered it to them. PlayStation won't do it. They'll use that as a bargaining chip.
Yeah.
They'll tell them, then we get Game Pass on PlayStation. And PlayStation will be like, fuck. But anyway, so after all that I said that Mr. Nutella said, he went on to say, that being said, Microsoft is very, very confident that this will come out, as he put it. It'll go through. And the executive went on to point out that Microsoft is not the biggest player in gaming. He estimated that Microsoft is number 4 or number 5 player in the space, with Sony being the first. And then he says, so this is about competition. Then let us have competition. Let them fight. I mean, you preach competition all the time. You talk about how we should do this and everybody needs to compete and everybody needs to do better and, oh, we need competition? Then let's fucking compete, bitch. Let's have competition. Now, some people just say, oh, that's just, a sentence. It's just shots fired, things like that, blah, blah, blah. And it is. However, what I'll say is interesting about this is that they've poked the dragon, if you will. They've poked the bear. Because before, it was Phil Spencer who they were dealing with. He's the head of Xbox. He runs all of that. And he was reporting to Nadella. He was like, yeah, this is going on. And he was like, okay. They have their meetings, I'm sure, and all that with all the different heads. Now, Nadella has decided to come and take more of a role in this situation. How big, I don't know. But he's commenting on the stuff. He's coming in there. He's talking about it. That means now they're not dealing with just Xbox, because it's hard for people to separate the two. Microsoft and Xbox. They are, while the same, they're two different entities, if you will, almost. So now they're not this whole situation, Sony and these regulation boards and all that, they're not just dealing with Xbox. They're dealing with Microsoft. Whether you like Microsoft or not, they are a fucking juggernaut. And if they want something, they are going to get it. So now I think that it almost seems like he's just like, I'm really tired of all this childish bullshit. Let's put an end to this. Here we go. So yeah, I am very confident, as Satya is, that this is going to go through. I'm just curious because we know Phil Spencer's got that whole nice guy thing, and that's great, where he's like, oh, we're going to do this, and we're going to give you that, and we're going to give you this. They keep being real, and he's been real giving. He's not making shots fired, he's not talking shit, even though Sony's been shit. They like slowly got to the point where they're just shit talking them on on a public scale. Satya Nadella seems like he's not on that same level as I'm going to be Mr. Nice Guy with you. I'm wondering if he's going to come in and just be like, no, fuck that shit. Bury their asses. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, you're right. Microsoft's one of the biggest companies in the world. They're up there with Apple. If they decide to buy this company and it happens, and he says it happens, and he's like, nope, we're not doing it. It's gonna be bad for PlayStation. So it's everybody's gonna hate on Microsoft till they realize Microsoft has just the service. The Xbox Game Pass is just a beast of a service, and sorry PlayStation, you had your chance to just kind of be chill about it, and you're not. So the CEO of Microsoft's like, I'm coming in and I'm taking care of this bitch. So
yeah, it's almost like he's like, I'm sick of hearing you people bicker and bitch like little children. I got business to do.
I got things to take care of.
Put it into this shit. But it really is, if you go back, and I know we've talked about this ad nauseum, and I'm not going to talk about any of it specifically. If you look at the stuff that these executives over at PlayStation have been saying publicly, it's very unprofessional, and they sound like their fan base. They sound like whiny little entitled babies, and they're just sitting there talking about and this is not, yes, I admit Microsoft is my preferred ecosystem, but I love PlayStation 2. There's a PS4 right here next to me. I'm looking at it hooked up with a PSVR on the floor and game. I love all of them. But why are they acting like such little whiny babies? And they're so everything they say, it doesn't make sense. They don't want the competition. They don't want competition. They don't want the competition to be able to do the same thing that they do every fucking day. And it's the hypocrisy is out of control. And I'm just wondering if now that Microsoft itself has gotten involved, if that just means they're like, we're putting an end to this. We're done. We're done fucking around. I think that they still will, at this point at least, have those deals. But at the end of the day, like you said, Game Pass, that's their ace in the hole. Because even if it is still coming to PlayStation, it'll sell. But everybody will know that, okay, there's all those extra perks and stuff, they're going to be across the board now. Or Xbox will get them and PlayStation won't. And you pay $10 a month and you can get the fucking game for free. Nobody's going to... No, yeah, it's going to take business away either way, even if they leave it on that console. But yeah, I just found these comments kind of funny, and I know people have been talking about them, and I thought it was kind of he wasn't dropping himself to that same level as like bitching and whining and moaning as some of the others have been doing. He did it in a very dapper, suave way. He came on and said, "You want competition? Let us have competition." It's almost like you want to look at it like, "Hey guys, if you want to compete, then let us have it. Let's have competition." Or it could be like he's making a declaration, like they did in Godzilla's, "Let us have competition." Begin. You know, I don't know which way he was going with that, but either way is him pretty much saying, "Then let it fucking happen, bitch." Or, "All right, bitch, let us have it." So either way, Microsoft is involved. Shit's getting real. This is gonna go through. This is gonna fucking happen. And this is probably, until it does happen, unless something really monumental happens, probably not gonna talk about this story again. I'm just gonna go on record and say, it's happening. And if you are upset about that, come to terms with it, because it's fucking happening. What they do with the IPs after it happens, I don't know, but I mean, they are going to own this. This is going to be Microsoft properties all around. Just live with it and move on. And let's just move on and have a good time with the game where you want or how you can. So fucking sick and tired of hearing this. But that man, pimp. Pimp daddy. Alrighty. Well, let us know in the comments below what you think about Satya's comments and this whole shitty situation. And really, just in my opinion, PlayStation their executives are being very unprofessional. Not all of them, just the ones that have been opening their fucking mouths. And that's not your shit. That's gonna come back to bite you in the ass. You go shit talking the competition like that openly, that's bad form, man. That never works out for anybody. And people don't forget that shit, especially the people you're talking shit about. But let us know in the comments below what you guys think, and if you're upset or happy about this whole Microsoft acquiring situation.